I'm John Ogden with MoneySummit, and we're here today to talk with Jason Falls from Elasticity, a marketing agency group. First, let's talk about the financial services industry and what has changed in the past 10 years.
Well, there's two major things that have changed. One is social media and the explosion of that, and the other is mobile. And mobile's probably the one that has had the most impact on the financial services industry from a customer relationship standpoint, because now financial customers, young and old, are spending the majority of their time communicating, engaging, looking for information on a device, on a tablet or a mobile phone. And so in order for banks to meet the consumer needs, they have to be in that device or in that mobile environment. And so mobile has been the biggest thing over the last decade that's really changed the industry and changed how banks approach their customers.
Interesting. And does Elasticity help financial institutions with that concept of mobile?
Yeah, I mean, we help a variety of clients, financial service industry and other industries with all aspects of digital marketing. Mobile almost always percolates and comes to the top of that conversation, because that's where consumers are. That's how consumers are digesting information. It's how they're sharing information. It's where they get information. It's where they communicate. And so you have to fish where the fish are, and the fish are on the phones. So mobile comes up first. But what we like to tell people is mobile is not a device. That doesn't mean phone. Mobile is really an environment. It's an experience. So it's not so much about being on that little 3-inch screen or even a tablet. It's about being available where consumers' attention is, which could be at a kiosk in a bank. It could be at a kiosk in a store. It could be at a point of sale to be able to mobile pay with a mobile payment system. It could be at a digital sign on a bus, is where you can also reach that consumer and communicate. So there's mobile means a lot of things. It's not just confined to the phone. And what we try to do with our clients is help them figure out how to get their message in front of the audience they're trying to reach in the right environment.
Yeah, so maybe you can walk through an example of that. I'm interested in what that might look like in practice.
Sure. So I'll try to put it into a financial services package, but it's going to be a little bit of a stretch. You're going to have to squint a little bit, because right now most banks are coming out with either mobile payment options or applications where you can do a mobile deposit, etc. You can check your balances. Maybe you can even transfer some money. And so that's good for a device. It's good for a desktop computer. It's good for a tablet. But when we think of mobile, we also think, well, what if I want to access information on a smart TV? What if I want to access information on an Xbox widget, because that's my primary connection to the internet, because I don't have a computer, but I have a gaming system. So if you have to think about it from a technological standpoint, what we're challenged to do in the financial services industry is build databases of content and opportunities that can be distributed and repositioned anywhere. And so I see banks 5-10 years from now having Xbox widgets, having Netflix channels, having smart TV applications, so on and so forth.
What are the biggest obstacles that get in the way of making this transition?
Well, the biggest obstacle for banks, quite frankly, is sort of the regulatory compliance legal curtain that marketing communications is often held behind. And so freeing the marketing team to be able to communicate in real time, to be able to be certainly aware of regulations, sensitive information, et cetera, et cetera. There are ways to be compliant and still communicate in real time. You just have to invest in some education and training for your teams. But the biggest obstacle right now is sort of getting the permission to be able to be on the leading edge, maybe even the bleeding edge, and find these new innovative ways to reach consumers. The financial service industry, because it's a regulated industry, is often 5, 10, maybe even 15 years behind everybody else. The industry's got to close that gap in order to keep up.
Okay, so what would you say that is the biggest thing that financial institutions need to be keeping their eye on as they look toward the future? Maybe let's talk about that specifically in terms of marketing.
So the eye on the future, both short-term and long-term, in my personal opinion, is being able to understand your customer better. And the way that you can do that in today's age is by mining online conversations about everything from how I spend money, where I spend money, to specifically which bank do I use, et cetera, et cetera. tapping into social intelligence, social data, the conversations that are out there. It's the largest focus group that you can ever find in the history of mankind. It's millions of conversations happen every day, and they're indexed, they're searchable. So finding a social listing, social data platform where you can go out, find the topics, find the themes, and dive into them and find out, okay, what are consumers saying when they are at the point of decision, of making a decision to buy? What are they saying leading up to that decision? Are they turning around and recommending it to their friends and family after the decision? And understanding sort of that conversation from a research perspective, I think is what the future holds for many banks, because it's really about getting to know your customer better, and we have this untapped wealth of information that we can go after in social media.
So would that require some tool, some solution of some sort?
Absolutely. There are a lot of people have probably heard of social monitoring platforms. They've kind of advanced to calling themselves now social listening platforms. Ultimately, what you're trying to do is you're trying to monitor or listen to the web for conversations. Now, the way most people start out is, well, I want to type in my, like a Google search, my bank's name or my financial institution's name and see what people are saying about me. But if you think about it a couple steps further, you're like, okay, well, let's ask the question, what are people talking about? What are they saying when they're trying to buy a car or when they're getting ready to buy a house? So if you take your brand out of it and understand the consumer mindset when they're in the decision-making process, it gives you a whole lot more insight into how you can be a part of that.
Thinking of keywords that might pop up, mortgage, auto loan, those kind of things. Great. So a lot of banks are trying to decide what to do about fintech. Is it an enemy or is it a partner? What's your opinion on that?
Well, the answer is almost always it depends, but I think overall fintech is definitely a partner for financial institutions. Most of these organizations are coming up with technological solutions to close that gap we talked about, right? So they're trying to help financial institutions get to a point to where they can respond to consumer needs in a relevant, expedient fashion, and be there with the consumer product good companies and the technology companies that are meeting those consumer needs and even sort of influencing what consumers are looking for, but based on the technology that's available. So I think having good partners from the fintech world is a smart thing, a smart solution to have if you're a financial brand marketer.
Great. Anything else you'd like to say about Elasticity?
Elasticity is a full-service digital marketing agency. We do everything from online listening, social media research, to SEO, SEM, to content marketing strategies. We build websites and apps too, but we're really a digital strategy firm and love to talk to folks.
Great. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.